webinar. First of all, hello to everyone, and thank you to all of you to joining for this webinar. We are going to talk about the tips to make successful and legal tech. Okay. So, but first of all, I would like to tell you to remind what the Impact Lawyer is. Okay. Impact Lawyer is an international magazine based in London, and we are focused to lawyers and law firms. And what we want to offer them the practical tips to help them to improve their business. Okay? So for us, it's very important our special guest that we have, that is the Alt+Co, because it's our new partner. Okay? So, because, you know, we really believe that the legal tech is changing the legal paradigm. Okay? So for that, it's an honor because Alt+Co is an international association based in Colombia. Okay? So, okay, for me, it's everything, Alvaro. So I will let you to introduce these speakers. Alvaro is the editor chief, so he will start describing the speakers for today. Thank you.
Welcome to all the speakers to this webinar. I will present and we will introduce all the 6 speakers that came here. Germán Flores is from Colombia and is the chair of Alt+Co, the legal tech association that we are really proud to be partners. Daniel Acosta is Colombian entrepreneur and is the co-founder of Legal Nova. He's also from Alt+Co. David Martín Corral is a Spanish entrepreneur, CEO and co-founder of Sensei, which is a digital clinic for patients with respiratory problems. Angelica Pimentel is from Brazil, and she has her startup in Spain called Point, a trip advisor for parents that maps child-friendly places all over the city. Theodora Stoica, she's from Romania, and she is the co-founder and the co-editor-in-chief of CE Legal Tech blog. It's a blog focused on legal tech innovation and entrepreneurship. And finally, we have Abdi Sayasteh, is from America, and he's CEO of and founder of Alt+Co, an experimental learning platform that helps training skills for lawyers. So we are going to start with the questions. And in these first questions, we want to know the opinion of Abdi, David, and Angelica. Okay, so we know that technology alone does not generate added value for organizations or for firms. So which guidelines do you think are necessary to create a good business model in legal tech? Abdi, if you want, you could start.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Great to be here, calling in from New York City, and pleasure to be on this panel. Thank you. Yeah, this question is actually something I've been studying a lot. This is my 4th startup, and one of the things I learned very quickly in my career is that thinking through the whole product. You know, what is the whole product? It's not just the technology. Yes, it is just the technology to your early adopters, right? Who are the tech enthusiasts. But as your profile audience grows, as the early adopters start to transform and you start to cross the chasm, the most important thing is to think about the whole product. And that includes the services, includes the support, includes the community, includes the onboarding. All of these pieces, I believe, make up your product. And so that's the first point I want to make, that it shouldn't just be the technology, but more importantly as well, our profession, the legal industry, we are, as you know, just beginning to adopt technology. So if we just come at lawyers, and I've practiced for 20 years in the international banking community, if you just come at lawyers with technology, there's going to be resistance. So tech-enabled, it should be the forefront of your process. For example, at Alt+Co, we have products that we have not released and won't release for another 3 or 4 years because our audience is not there yet. So at this stage, we're focusing on tech-enabled, tech process to integrate within the lawyer's workflow. So they start to become acquainted with the use and benefits of technologies in an efficient way and not immediately resisting it. Making an analogy, if you remember, at least in America, before the time came to pay by your phone, there were these cards that enabled you to pay by tap and go. That was a same philosophy here, to just get customers used to some form, but not the full form of the technology. Now we can use our phones. Obviously, in other parts of the world, they skipped and went straight to the phone. But in America, there was a resistance in this movement in using sort of chips in making payments. So the same thing here in our industry is to come forward with a tech-enabled process that integrates technology in the workflow of the lawyer, but does not overwhelm them to make them super scared, right? Lawyers start off being cynical and scared. So that's how we've started Alt+Co, and that's I think from my perspective to answer this question. Thank you.
Thanks, Adi. David, what do you think about this question? David, can you?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I totally agree with Abdi. At the end, from my side, is problem, solution, technology, which means at the end we need to put in the shoes of our clients. We need to understand the psychology. And he mentioned at the end, we cannot take one technology and put them in front of them because they are not going to understand them. They need to be nurtured. We need to take them step by step because human behavior at the end is resistant. We have a brain that is adapted to our environment. And if that environment changes quite rapidly, we have a trauma. So we can take it in that side. So for me, is always go first to go to the pains. What is feeling that person? Which are the emotions? And from that, you take it forward and you design a solution, a product. And the product maybe is you are building the future. And if you are building the future, you cannot start with the rooftop of your house. You need to start with the scaffoldings. So for me, as an entrepreneur, and I think one of the most useful tools to try to enable technology for client, for users, is understand human behavior and observe them. That's my advice, my small advice.
Okay, thanks, David. And Angelica, let's go with you.
Okay, thank you. I totally agree with both of them, especially with David, because regarding product, of course, you want to think about spending less time, less money as possible in the beginning to make a minimal viable product to start to soon evolve the product as according to the client's needs. But first, if we are talking about business model guidelines, I would focus mainly on understanding the pain. I absolutely understand when Abdi says that the legal industry just starting to become legal tech, and but one thing that you all understand the most, even earlier than other sectors, is to understand your client's pain. And so if I would point three guidelines, I would say understand the pain, find your value proposition, what makes you different from the other to solve this pain, and then to make it simple. Already regarding products, make the business model simple to make it scalable, and that's what technologies have to be all about. I mean, you have to think about also in scalability if we're talking about technology, because it increases the client range that you can get if you are entering into any tech sector. So if I would have to short it, I would say understand the pain, find your value proposition, and make it simple to make it scalable.
Thanks, Angelica. I really like your point of view. So we are going to ask you another question specific to David, Angelica, and Theodora. Which qualities does an entrepreneur leading a legal tech need to have? David, if you want, you can start.
For me, I think for legal tech or any company is first, embrace uncertainty. Second, be conscious inwardly and outwardly, and then the rest of the skills, management, product, technology, some of them you can achieve them faster, and other skills you need to go to college, this kind of things. But at the end is what we were talking. Understand yourself as a human and understand the rest of the humans. That would, for me, would be the main skills.
Okay, perfect. Theodora, what do you think about this question?
Well, mainly I agree with all my fellow panelists in the view and in the vision that any legal tech entrepreneur should have. And to my mind, one very important skill is resilience, because just like Abdi said previously, people are very reluctant to change, and that is evolutionary demonstrated. The courageous one that ventured outside the cave would probably end up being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. The idea is to understand that and to accept the fact that people might be resistant at the beginning, and you should actually take baby steps. You should try to create a community. You should try to create brand trust. You should also try to incorporate more and more features into your product as per clients' needs. But for that, you need a lot of patience, a lot of good communication with your clients, and overall resilience, just like I mentioned, because you should not expect to draw profit from your product in the first months, and not even in the first year. You should accept that probably you will be able to break even after 1 year of continuous improvements and continuous back and forth and bouncing back with your clients. But overall, and that's actually a test for all startups out there, not necessarily for legal tech ones. Overall, the ones that are able to succeed and the ones that are able to go to the unicorn level and then hopefully into S&P 500 and Fortune and other elite clubs are the ones that push forward and push through all the let's say boundaries and all the hurdles that they encountered throughout the road.
Okay, thanks, Theodora. Angelica, for ending this question.
I absolutely agree with Theodora. I think the first quality is resilience. I 100% agree. I'm sure that everybody here agrees with it. And I will only add to it, for any entrepreneur have to learn to be resourceful. You have to understand that you have to know a bit of everything if you want to make this work. So you can, also you can have the control and to measure the results afterwards when you already have a team and you already have incomes and etc. But you have to be resourceful and you have to learn the hard way or the easy way to make more with less all the time. And add to the resilience, I would also add what Theodora said about ambition, about to think big or go home, go big or go home, right? So, but yeah, I totally agree with that main point.
Okay, Angelica, I love the quote. So we are going to start with the third question. Especially, we'll ask, they will answer Daniel, Atbi, and Theodora. In legal tech companies, the profiles of technological engineers and lawyers coexist or could coexist. So how can they understand each other and cooperate perfectly? Daniel, for example, first.
Thanks, Alvaro. Before answering that question, I would like to say something about the previous one. I know that I was not called on that one, but I think it's important to mention something additionally. And it's also entrepreneurs must be ready to learn from mistakes. I think that's a key concept about being an entrepreneur, and a difference between like traditional R&D and the way entrepreneurs develop the products and the services that they are starting to offer. In that process, in that innovation process, because either way or another, entrepreneurs do that, right? Like be innovators as well. And in that process of innovation, learning from mistakes is very important, because basically you are creating something that is not out there, right? You are starting to address a new market, you are trying to capture new clients, and in that from that point of view, it's important to know that you might learn from something that you are probably doing wrong, right? So it's not only stopping at that moment, but learning from that mistake to start a new way. And that's like design thinking it's all about as well. So that's something that I was going to say about the previous question. So about this question and the interaction between lawyers and engineers, I think there is no secret about the different languages that we as lawyers speak, different from the engineers. But I think that the most important part of all legal tech and this innovation process is that as lawyers we have to see our industry as any other industry. We are used to focus in drafting contracts, understanding law, but we are losing that point of view that we are also part of a market. We are also part of a world that connects through economy. And in that point of view, it is important to also develop management capabilities, right? Because if you are starting a new project as an entrepreneur, you will also have to interact with people that is not that are not lawyers, and that's very important from a business. You have to understand which are your key partners to develop a project. You have to understand what is the value proposition that you are offering, how you are going to achieve it. So I think that as lawyers we have to overcome maybe that perhaps part of our culture that focuses only about interacting with lawyers. And to do that, we have to develop skills beyond law. And that's the way I think we can interact with other disciplines. For instance, if you think about other industries such as healthcare industry, you can find CEOs very prominent over there that are not necessarily doctors, right? So that's why I think we need to understand this as any other industry, and these abilities of management are also really important.
You were on mute, Alvaro. Sorry.
Abdi, if you want to, you can.
Okay. I thought you were going to come to me, but I wasn't sure. Great. Great comment by Danielle. And in fact, I'm going to copy Danielle and comment on just the question from before too, because that is an interesting question that I think about all the time. And I think what's unique about all the things that the panelists spoke about being an entrepreneur, obviously very important no matter what industry you're in. Trying to tie it even more closely to being a legal tech entrepreneur, I think one of the things that I'm finding interesting, because having been serious for 20 years as a lawyer, right, and now we're selling something fun, right, technology, making things better, and we have to balance, right, our messaging, our approach with lawyers to not scare them, because they don't know that fun can still be serious and serious can be fun, right? And I think because we are exposed to so many tech companies with so many, especially in the B2C world, where concepts, messaging, communication are very relaxed, it becomes very challenging to avoid that in our industry. We have to, the way that we've been able to sell is maintaining this balance between seriousness and fun, and trying to get that in every part of your company, whether it's your brand, whether it's your messaging, or even in your conversations, in your sales approach, becomes very important, right? yes, cold calling a lawyer works, but if done in the right way, right? You have to be able to pitch in 30 seconds or less when you have a partner at 5 p.m. that picks up the phone to say, hey, look, I'm going to make your life easier, but I respect your time. Let's set up a time, a couple of weeks from now to talk about it. So there's that, and patience, I think, in the process, just to add, because lawyers take a long time to make a decision. Anyway, sorry. Now, but the question, Alvaro, you asked about the profile of an engineer versus profile of a lawyer. I think I got very lucky. I'm very grateful that our chief technology officer also happens to be a lawyer. He's a lawyer and engineer. He called me. We had an ad out for a senior editor, and this was a few years ago. And he called and said, I have a JD, I have an MBA, and I also was an engineer. I said, dude, can you come over? Let's have a drink, because I want you to be a co-founder of this company, right? To get that trifecta, I think is unique, because engineers have different traits, as Danielle mentioned. But I think there's a lot of common ground between engineers and lawyers. And that is that we're both very logic-based, right? As a discipline. Engineers is X plus Y equals Z, and so are lawyers, right? So I think the ability to communicate with our engineering teams, we have a common ground of logic. However, I think lawyers are used to being in a world of being very aggressive, right? That's just the way we work. If I don't like something, I'm going to tell you, and that's okay, because that's the way it is in the industry. But engineers are different. They're very sensitive, right? They're kind of like artists. And so right away, in the early days of building Alt+Co, I realized the difference of culture. And so leveraging common ground, but being very sensitive that they're not lawyers, right? Just like, the rest of the team is different culture and different discipline. But engineers are like artists, and they pride in their work. And so the feedback and communication has to be very sensitive, but, at the same time, effective. The other thing is that if you tell an engineer, I need to build X and Y, he will build, or she will build X and Y, and that's it. I think lawyers try to expand. Well, what about Z? What about Z plus 1? What about all these other elements? And an engineer perhaps won't go there. And so thinking around the corner, I think lawyers are used to, and getting into the mindset of engineer to think that way is another component of building a legal tech company. And I would say, lastly, the other part is design. So I remember so many conversations. If something didn't work, right away, it wasn't very obvious. The engineer said, well, no, it's very obvious. You have to push this and then that and this and that. Well, look, you're dealing with a lawyer, right, who has to move quickly. Time is money, and it may not be so obvious. I kept reminding our engineers, look, you have to really, really water it down even more. It's not as these folks are not used to all the technology that we're used to, because we're tech enthusiasts. We've kind of grown up with these things. And so that's another part, I think, an obstacle that in working with engineers is to bring them to that office where all you have is books in that office of your customer. All you have is paper. All you have is people printing stuff. It's kind of archaic, because the world doesn't operate like that anymore. I don't have a printer anymore. But lawyers, you go into their office, they have to write, and they have to circle, they have to print, they have to have an assistant. So having an engineer understand where the user is in our industry becomes a critical part of having a successful legal tech company. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Abdi, and it's really great that you commented on you and your project are really fortunate. I have one question to you, Abdi. Lawyers must have a change of mind in the time to in this new time to working with engineers. You have to change their mind.
Yeah, you have to transform their mind. You have to imagine what we're doing in our business is we're training lawyers. Right. And we're going to law firms, and we have law firms at the top in the US and around the country who are now using our platform to train their associates. But you have to think about how long that took to change their mind, that we could do it better we could do it more efficiently. We could save them time. We could save them money and make them look good because they're used to the way things are, right? And so, you know, getting them to see the value, you have to speak their language. You know, when I say, look, do you really want to spend 11 o'clock at night explaining to a junior lawyer what a rep and warranty and covenant is? Why don't you rely on us to do that? So at 11 o'clock at night, you can either go and have drinks with your client, you know, or if there's a trainable moment, it's very advanced and you don't have to start from zero. So you have to speak in their language. Oh yeah, save time, meet with my clients so that they start to see the world and value you're bringing them. So that's what's been helpful in my perspective.
Okay, thanks, Albi. And Theodora, what do you think about
Well,
a
just-
connection? Yes.
Just a quick add up here, because what Abdi said is actually to the point, and I completely agree with him in all the aspects. And just building up on the idea of discussing with lawyers, I think one way to ensure that you, as a legal tech service provider, are able to make your message go across and make it understandable for the lawyers is also to educate the lawyers. And I've seen that done in many instances. For example, legal tech vendors having a blog probably, or at least a platform in which they post articles and have webinars and conferences actually explaining to the lawyers what they as providers can do better, and at the same time finding a common ground. So basically, it is true that you as an engineer must understand lawyers' language, but at the same time you can also help and try and help lawyers understand your language. And eventually, you know, it's just like when people from one country or from the old world, let's say, started discovering the new world, they've become more tolerant. And I think that's also true for lawyers. We are very close guild. We tend to keep it to ourselves and try, just like Abdi said, try to be very aggressive. But at the same time, if other people from other industries come to the lawyers and explain some aspects in an understandable way, and also find the common ground, I think that would be the key to success.
Okay, thanks, Theodora. For Germán, Daniel, and Advi, what do you think? Which are the obstacles that do legal tech face in this current paradigm? Germán, if you want.
Yes, thanks, Alvaro. Definitely, we are like in a stage of innovation and change in the legal industry, and this triggered up some like obstacles, as we could like see because of the formality of the law. So the first obstacle that we can face it is like the change of mind of people, of lawyers specifically, because we traditionally are like very formal, and we follow like the tradition in the legal industry, and change the way we do the law, change the way we provide service for the customers is not an easy thing. So, for example, if a law firm is like very successful for so many years, sometimes they could think, what would we change the way we have provided legal services? And that's what a really big obstacle, because it's like the change in the way we provide those services is like provide some innovation services within the law firms, and it could include like creating departments of legal innovation or legal tech or legal design. And I don't know if all the law firms are ready for that, but from my point of view is the present, not even the future. Like in the whole world, customers need like more specific services, more efficient, more clear, and we see how in fintech, in regtech, in another like scenarios, the innovation is the first thing that companies are like providing. That's why we need to overtake this kind of this obstacle of the chain of mind. Obviously, it would start in the universities, because universities, professors at the universities have to change the way we are teaching law. It's not just to put some lectures of legal tech or legal innovation. It's to to talk with the professors for all areas of law and see how they include in their syllabus legal tech topics. So, for example, in civil law, in contract law, in administrative law, in criminal law, they have to include in the syllabus, in the way they teach law, how the legal tech is impact the lawyers, like the impact lawyers.
Yes, and thanks, Germán, because you are talking about a really specific high topic that is about the universities. Like, do you think that in universities are teaching about, especially in the law schools, are teaching about technology or engineering, or how to work and connect with engineers?
No, they are like very, I don't know. From my point of view, universities are not ready yet for this transformation. So not many, but obviously there are some examples of leading universities like the Stanford Technology Law Institute or the Queen Mary Institute of Commercial Law, that they are like providing those things, or the Manchester University, that they have a very good innovation laboratory. But I would say that not many universities in the world are ready for that, because as I told you, it's not just to create departments, but it's to change the whole way we're teaching law. Is to make understand the traditional professors, the traditional law professors, that they can work with with designers, with engineers, in creating a better law. And this is something that we have to do. For example, in Colombia, Universidad Sergio Arboleda is doing a very interesting exercise with a laboratory of legal design and also a new master of law in legal tech. And some other universities in Argentina and in Mexico are trying to do that. But it's not what we see in most faculties. But I think one of the obstacles that could impact the future of the law is the universities, is how the universities are teaching law. And this is, I think it would be very difficult, but it's something that we can overtake. So universities, law firms, but also corporations, because corporation, either the public or the private sector, they could change also the way they exercise law. For example, the in-house lawyers were not that important some years ago. They have just these in-house sectors in the companies for prevent future controversies. But today, like, the in-house lawyers are absolutely relevant in most companies in the world. They have a most proactive role. At the same way, I think the legal tech departments must be something that most companies must have in the future, in the near future, because if you provide legal tech to the companies, you can give a better service to the customers, you can prevent controversies, you can use technology to improve the different goals of companies, and everybody will be happier. Customers, companies, it could save a lot of money also. But the most important thing is, and the obstacle we have to overtake, is to change the mentality in order to understand that when we're talking about legal tech, is not to become engineers, but to understand how the code works, to understand how the technology is helping lawyers to be better and to provide better services to customers, and also to access to justice in a better way.
Thanks, Germán. Abdi, if you want, you can continue with this question.
Yeah, I think that the paradigm we're in, it depends on what part of the world you're in, but we're all kind of in the same boat, right? In the sense of when this is being adopted and how it's being adopted. So I agree with Herman. I agree. I think the universities are a very strong place to start to transform the mind. We have been opportunistic, even though our primary targets have been law firms. We've been opportunistic with law schools. Where there is a law school that has an innovative dean, entrepreneurial mindset dean and faculty, we've gone in and collaborated with them to figure out where our platform can fit in. In some universities, like Durham in the UK, we're inside the classroom. We're inside the classroom as a part of a experiential framework to learn practical skills to give people a leg up when they graduate. In the United States, we're working with University of Denver, University of Colorado, and we're in the clinical programs at those schools where they, in that university, you get credits for doing an internship or externship during the year, and there is a class that's a part of that where they teach you sort of, the bread and butter of being in these internships and how to do well. As a part of that, our programs have been integrated into the clinical programs. So that is one way. So you have to kind of figure out how and where and which law schools. And that could be a challenge, because the worst thing, and it happened to me early on, is to get sucked into a law school that wants to do it, but they're thinking about it and they just take their time and time and time. And then you're stuck on this sales cycle thinking that you're going to have this best law school in the world, but they aren't able to execute. And so that impacts your sales cycle. So I agree with Herman that law school is a great place, but you have to find those innovative entrepreneurial faculty or dean to be able to help transform and integrate your programs in there. And there are universities out there. In fact, I'm pleased to say that we have partnered with ESADE in Spain, and we're going to be offering our program this summer, as well as in Brazil, FGV Law School. Both Rio and Sao Paulo, so things are moving there. But I have to say, in those countries, we were in their law firms first, and that helped, kind of spread the message. So that's one thing I want to say. The other thing is that there is momentum behind us right now as an industry, because the pandemic accelerated the tectonic shifts in the industry, right? Law firms are forced to think about economics more and more now, right? How can they use technology to make things more efficient? They're obviously realized that remote workforce works, as so did the rest of the world. And so this, again, I think accelerated the tectonic shift that probably started 10, 15 years ago. So we need to take advantage of this paradigm shift. It's not, I don't think glass is half empty. I think glass is half full. I'm sure everyone here agrees that I think we have a good wind behind us to now keep going into law firms and law schools that realize they don't want to be caught flat-footed again next time the world changes and they're not ready. And so anyway, I think it's an opportunity for our industry.
Yeah. Thanks, Abhi. And Daniel?
Yes, thank you. I totally agree with Herman and Abdi. I think that education is a paramount step. Some universities are starting to understand that. And I think it's not only a matter of a necessity of the law school. I think it is important to involve other schools in that process. For instance, computing schools or business schools as well. Because this paradigm, as you mentioned in that question, it's about change. What we are going through as an industry, as lawyers, is change. And that change, as Abdi mentioned, has been accelerated by the COVID-19 outbreak, without doubt. And we can't lost from point of view that we are also in the digital era. We are in this called fourth industrial revolution, which means that the adoption of technologies. But I think one of the main obstacles in legal tech as well is that we as lawyers have to understand that the adoption of technologies are not or is not the final step. It's not the goal. It's just a mean to achieve something. So the adoption of technology does not guarantee business success. So I think as lawyers, we are in a kind of rush or in a trend to start speaking about technologies and the importance of artificial intelligence for us or big data, but we are losing an important point of view in that discussion, that is the value proposition of that technology. Because if we just try to implement artificial intelligence without having a proper business model innovation strategy, we might fail in that process. And that's kind of important, because if we understand legal tech as an innovation, and an innovation is a process, then we can start thinking about the final outcome of that process, right? And technology is just a part of that step. So it's important to have a clear business model innovation to overcome some of the common barriers that are in the industry. A couple of years ago, I conducted a study in the UK about the main barriers for the law industry in adopting technologies, and two were the most important outcome of that investigation. First was the fear. Like, lawyers have fear, as any other professional will have, to change, right? Because what does it mean in the future? We are facing uncertainty. We don't know what is going to happen with this. And because of that fear, lawyers tend to block the change. And this is also connected with what Herman was mentioning about the current good stand of the industry. Before the COVID-19 outbreak, I don't know if you remember that moment of the industry, but lawyers were having one of the most historical years in terms of income. So if you are having great income, if you are doing well, why you have to change? That's like the main question you should ask. And that's important. And it's actually a theory that explains that. It's called the innovator dilemma. It was created by Clay Christensen. And he actually explains why it is important to change even in those circumstances. And the other important issue that it was a barrier for that adoption of technologies was the legal culture. We as lawyers tend to stay with lawyers, talk with lawyers, interact with lawyers, and that's it. And that for innovation, it's the worst scenario you can be in, because there is no exchange of new ideas, there is no creation in that conversations. And that's why the interaction with engineers and also with the business school is important and is relevant. Because in those conversations, in those new perspectives of law, is where you can find that change and you can overcome that uncertainty. And the final point I want to mention is that I also think that this new paradigm that we are living as lawyers is a change of the user-centered vision of law. Because as lawyers, and again, because of our culture, we are used to think about law and lawyers, basically, right? So we are only thinking about what is important for lawyers, but we are not thinking about the user. Who is our user and what is important to them, right? So this is not only a call from ourselves to change, but it's something that is happening in all of other industries as well. And it's because users are demanding efficiency, are demanding technology, are demanding new methods for offering services. And that's why we also have to change that vision and start thinking about that user and have a user-centered vision. And in that process, it will be easy to understand why technology is important and what can we do with technology.
Thanks, Daniel. I do like your reference to the users. And I have a question for you. Do you think users' experience will be or RB is real, is a really important thing that lawyers must have in mind nowadays?
Yes, of course. I mean, like legal innovation is basically based on design thinking. If you think about legal design, which is one of I mean, like it's one of the most important services that we offer in Legal Nova. Legal design is based in the user, and it's based in that experience that they're having with law. How can you guarantee access to justice for the people? And that question is really important in countries like Colombia, which is in this process of development, right? So we have to think in how people can access to justice and how can people understand law, because as lawyers we are tend to block the information that we control, right? We don't want the user to understand what we're saying, and that's why contracts are quite difficult to understand for people that are not lawyers, and that's a problem. And legal innovation, I think, should start to change that vision. We have to open the doors for people to understand what we're saying, and that will solve a lot of problems, not only for lawyers, but if you think about it, our profession is also is linked with humanity. We are talking about rights of people, and if we don't allow people to understand the rights of them, so I mean, like we have a special part in the process. That's my point, and that's why it is important we have that prominent role in generating access to that information for the users.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. And let's start with the last question. Given the emergence of the legal tech in a globalized market, do you think it will have a great impact in the most technologically advanced countries? Let's start with Germán.
Yeah, no, for sure, Alvaro. I have no doubt that the impact of this trend of legal tech in the world will impact the most technological countries. But I will extend the answer, because the impact will be not see in just in the most technological countries, but also in the emerging countries. I see legal tech as an opportunity for improving legal services, for improving like just Avi, where he just was mentioned about the program in Brazil, for example, in the university in Brazil. And so it's an example about how those countries will have also a very, or legal tech will have a very great impact on those countries. For example, I'm gonna give you a specific example. In Argentina, the University of Buenos Aires create a system called Prometea. And Prometea is an artificial intelligence system that allow judges to choose like decisions or to select a specific case law that will help them to have like a better decisions, or to help judges with the information they have to access to in order to solve the cases. And this Prometea was like very successful in Argentina, and the Constitutional Court of Colombia made an agreement last year to use this Prometea system for the Constitutional Court of Colombia is like the top court in our country. And the Constitutional Court of Colombia is using Prometea to select the constitutional cases relating to the health system in Colombia, in a work between the magistrates of the court and also the system. And this is an example about how technology is impacting emerging countries, because this was developed in Argentina, now it's using in Colombia, and it's an example about how we can also use those systems to impact the technology in the region from the legal point of view. And if legal tech is impacting emerging countries, of course it will impact positively the most technological countries, because I'm sure, like in United States, in Germany, in Japan, in France, even in Spain, there are like projects with artificial intelligence and with the use of legal tech in the legal system. So the impact will be global, but for emerging countries, it's an opportunity for the development. And that's my answer. My final answer is yes, of course.
Thanks, Herman. During your speech, one of our assistants tell the Prometea tool sounds like a groundbreaking initiative. So it sounds great. Thanks, Herman. Let's go if you want, Daniel. Let's start with answering this question.
Thanks, Alvaro. Yes, I agree with Herman, and I think that legal tech, as I mentioned, is about change, and it will possibly and it will change positive. It will create a positive change in all countries, probably. There are a couple of innovation theories, such as reverse innovation and the bricolage theory of creating new entrepreneurship ventures that can explain a little bit of how can developing countries help in the process of developed countries or in that advanced countries that you are mentioning in the question. And I also think that from different perspectives, we can start to abord this question. For instance, in these countries like Colombia, technology is having an important role. As I mentioned, our necessities as a country, as a citizens, are totally different from the necessities from the UK or Spain or United States. We have social problems that go beyond the understand or the history of those countries. So that's why technology it's important for that, because we can develop some strategies and some tools or products or services that are particularly or thought in Colombia or in these kind of countries. The solutions that we need might not be the solutions that are needed in Europe, for instance. And that's the pretty part about technology, that we can shape it in accordance of the results that we need to have. And if you take a look at other industries, they have some being a prominent advance in technology as well. For instance, Nubank, which is the world's biggest digital bank, is an initiative from a Colombian. His name is David Velez. He started in Brazil, and now he has the biggest digital bank in the world. And you can see other examples of that. For instance, Rappi, which is a unicorn based here in Colombia, and that has successfully overcame big players of the industry, such as Uber Eats, Delivery Hero, and they are also creating now their own bank. So these are just examples of how technology is starting to have an important role in the agenda of these countries. We are now talking about technology to solve problems, and how that technology, because that's a universal language, can also be exported to other countries in that globalized market.
Okay, Daniel, and Theodora for ending this question.
Yeah, I fully agree with both speakers that legal technology is actually an opportunity right now, and it is an equal opportunity for developing countries and developed countries. It is true that the GDPR of a country and the level of technologization is important, but I don't think it is vital, because basically what you need is a state that allows technology use to a decent extent. From that point onwards, it's all about the level of innovation of the people active in the technology industry. And because after all, technology is decentralized. You, for example, if you're an IT or a software engineer from France and you want to implement something in Nigeria, you can do that. You just need some permits, you clearly need some authorizations, but nonetheless, you can use the technology for a greater good. What I think is very important to analyze and to try to discern how that legal technology will let's say penetrate a market would be first to see how strong the legal tradition is in that certain country, because the younger the legal tradition, the more inclined legal professionals are to innovate. And also, and I think that's even more important, I would keep a close eye to the type of clients that are present in a country. And I've observed that usually the law firms that work with small and medium enterprises are the one more inclined to innovate, because an SME, first, it needs efficiency. It doesn't have a lot of money, so they would need automation. They won't need bespoke solutions because they won't have the money to pay for that. And they will also need rapid services, fast services, because they need to take the right decision at the right moment, because otherwise they might just lose a great opportunity. And these are the law firms that I would keep a close eye on as a legal tech vendor. And also, these are the clients that I would keep a close eye on if I want to innovate my law firm, because big law usually works with big companies and is like a closed circle there. They all use different types of legal tech solutions, and the market there is kind of saturated. But going forward and going to the SME segment of the market, I think there is a lot of opportunity there, and there is a place to grow for both law firms and legal tech vendors.
Thanks, Theodora. And I don't know if we have finished all the questions, so I don't know if someone of the speakers wants to add something, or we will start with the Q&A time. Okay, so I have one question for someone of you. How important is in artificial intelligence in legal tech? I don't know, Abdi, for example.
Yeah, I think it is important once we really get there, right? Because legal profession has so many repetitive jobs and so many repetitive tasks. But it's not going to eliminate the lawyer. You still need to have a human review it. So yeah, it definitely in what we do, simulation training, where we put students through mock transactions, simulated deals, where they're getting to work on something that's not on the client's dime or wasting the partner's time, right? So they can really learn in a safe environment. AI becomes a great tool because it can give you, feedback right away on whether you're getting it right or getting it wrong. But certainly can be used in the drafting context and in the filing context. So, but it's just a matter of when to start to creep it up on our profile clients. You can't just do it in a fast way, as we've been talking about.
Yeah, thanks, Abdi. Someone other wants to talk about the influence of artificial intelligence.
Perhaps I will add that one of the major challenges that we have as lawyers with the artificial intelligence is, as Abdi said, it probably is not going to replace lawyers, and I agree with that, but it will change the tasks that we have as lawyers. and especially those operative tasks that we perform that are not efficient. And those tasks are associated with the entry levels of lawyers. So it's important to start to think if artificial intelligence is going to or will change part of our entry level tasks. How are we going to train the new lawyers of the industry? And that's why it's important to involve universities in this discussion, because they will need new skills. And when they say they, I mean the students and the future lawyers. They will need new skills, which are not only the traditional ones, right? So it is a great discussion that is over there, and it's not an easy one either.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Someone from the speakers panel wants to add something final quote for this webinar.
I just want to invite all the people that are watching us to explore deeply the impact of legal tech in the legal services, because it's moving all around the world. There are like a lot of things happening in the whole continents. So it's important, and also invite people to change their mind, especially lawyers, to be less conservative. I know that I'm talking this with my tie and the typical dress of a lawyer, but it doesn't mean that I'm not innovative. If you see in my background, we have an Star Wars thing in my library. So we have like to innovate, to create new things, not to be afraid of learning new skills apart from the skills that we learn in the law faculties, skills about leadership, skills about technology, skills about design, because this is the future of our profession. And if we don't start like getting those skills from now, we will lose the race with the most innovative lawyers, and the legal industry will hire those kind of lawyers in the near future. So my invitation for all people that are watching us is to be prepared for this future and not to be afraid of being innovative.
Okay, thanks, Herman. I don't know if someone has another final quote or a final comment.
I would. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, actually, I would just add to anyone listening to us right now, lawyers, entrepreneurs, legal tech vendors, etc. Just try and be curious, because by knowing a little bit of everything, you manage to be more tolerant, and you get a 360-degree view of your environment, of your life. And ideas can come out from anything. And the human brain is a very intricate machine, and just have to read a lot and learn a lot, and eventually you will be able to be the one that maybe pushes the industry forward.
Okay, thanks, Theodora.
Alvaro, I would like to add, because I think that one of the cool things about right now is how you have panelists and participants from around the world. And we all got here because we're interested in innovation in the legal sector. And that's a pretty powerful thing right there to begin with. In each of your ecosystems who the early adopters are, and we can share that with each other. I could tell you who's the early adopter here in New York. You can tell me who are the firms in Spain, and so on and so forth. That, I think, is a powerful thing for us to act upon, to share that with each other, because that I think will help us become more powerful, where we all know where those early adopters are. Let's keep sharing it to the extent it makes sense throughout our community around the globe.
Thanks, Adi, and of course, I think it's really great to have all of you from different countries, different nationalities, and also from different cultures. And this is why the Impact Lawyers wants to create this kind of content and these webinars, because I think it's really important, valuable to bring practitioners from all kinds of sectors and countries. So if you have any other comment, I will say you congrats to all the speakers. It was a very interesting and valuable webinar, and also thanks for the assistance. Sorry for and apologize for the first instance of this webinar. We had trouble, but we fixed it, and obviously you are invited to visit the Impact Lawyers and to enjoy with this new transformation in the legal sector that obviously we are currently now in this new paradigm. So thanks to all, and see you soon.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add one thing. Again, sorry for the beginning. Thank you for all your time. And you know what? I find it really interesting because I have been a lawyer for 13 years. And the past 2 years, I have been an entrepreneur. I didn't have a legal tech, I had a startup. But you know, now that we have the Impact Lawyer, it's not a startup, but it's a new project. So the Imposter is our company, so it's kind of different, you know, the difference with the entrepreneurs, of course. But the thing is that we really appreciate your collaboration, because this new project is thanks of you guys that make it possible also this kind of thing. So thank you again. And it was so interesting. I learned a lot from you. Thank you. Thank you very much.